Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, so welcome to Struggle to Success and Wellbeing. This is a 6 week, workshop around health and well-being. And we kicked off the show by sharing this video, and it's about a man called Archie. I think it's Archie Moore that spent over 4 decades. On Archie Williams, and he spent 40 years in prison for something he never done. And how he got through that, by the grace of God, was through Marvin Winans' ministry and his songs that helped him through those years of feeling like there was no hope. Eventually, by God's grace, he got out, and his desire was to sing with Marvin Winans. And fate would have it that he got on X Factor. He had done so well, and he got the opportunity to sing with Marvin Winans. And it's like time and destiny met, and that was the result. Struggle to success, enabled him to get to a place of peace, contentment, and happiness. So we said we're going to kick it off by sharing Archie Williams' struggle. So I just want to welcome our hosts. Kick it off with Basil Palmer, Deisha Gordon, myself, Marlon Morris, and Lee Lawrence. We'll be with you all for the next 6 weeks. And we'll be joined by Tariq Mali and Anthony Andrew, who will be our guests and share later on. This is actually my first time doing something like this, but it's not going to be my last time, so just bear with me. I will get better over the weeks to come. We didn't share on the media, on the promotional media material, who we are and what we do. I thought we'd just do that generically, and you'll get a feel for who we are and what we do as weeks go by. Deisha Gordon, kick it off with you, just sharing a bit of like who you are, why you're here, and what we hope this platform will be in the next 6 weeks.
Hi listeners, thank you for joining us this evening. Struggle to Success has come about because Marlo and I were having a conversation, and I thought, a lot of people have a lot of stories, but we hear about the glitz and the glamour at the end, and we never really understand the true struggle that people go through to get to a certain point of success. So this platform will be the next 6 weeks where we cover people's struggles that has enabled them, and I would say enabled them to get to their successes. Because for me personally, through a lot of adversity in my life, it has also given me the attributes and the skill sets to survive in life and when you're confronted with huge life issues. My background, obviously, I was grown up by a single mother, didn't know who my dad was for years, grew up on an estate in Edmonton. And, when you look at that kind of upbringing, very few people actually come out of it sane, mentally aware, or without, huge emotional trauma. Here I am today saying that your struggles ultimately, when you look at them in a positive light, can be very supportive and helpful. I recently lost the partner to my 2 children 2 years ago. That's been a massive struggle, but equally it's also given me great characteristics and really kind of shown me who I can be when you are under immense pressure. So over the next 6 weeks, it will be myself hosting with Marlo and Lawrence Lee and Basil, and we will just be interviewing other people who have had huge stories in the sense of huge, uphill battles with health, mental illness, emotional, financial, and this will be a space that we can all talk openly and give others the encouragement and make other people aware that no matter how dark you feel your journey is, there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And with that being said, I will now pass over to Basil.
Hi, thank you so much. That's an amazing testimony. My name's Basil Palmer, otherwise known as Basil Links, and I'm a businessman. And I'm a bit of a workaholic. So my journey has primarily been one of leaving school early, working hard, round the clock, 7 days a week, making a lot of sacrifices to get to a point where today I'm running a business, several businesses, employing people, going from strength to strength, and able to support and empower people in my community and employ people in my community as well, which has, I've had my share of adversities, I've had my share of struggles, but I'm pleased to say that I'm on an upward trajectory. So I'm really happy to be here, and hopefully we can add some value to all of our listeners and to each other as well. So let's look forward to the next 6 weeks.
Brilliant. I didn't say much about myself. Lee will join later. He's going to join on the Zoom. But so my name is Marlo Morris. I come from a Caribbean family. Mother and father came from Jamaica in the 50s, and for want of a better life, they were sold the dream that England would paved, the streets were paved with gold. And my dad, recently interviewing my dad, I learned a lot, that his journey wasn't a bed of roses. But he went on, married with my mother, had four children, went school in Hackney, born in Hackney, but grew up in Jamaica because he felt like the schooling over there was a better life over there. I had many struggles of that we'll share as the weeks go by, but at the moment, by God's grace, I'm a CEO, director of an organization called the Legacy Foundation Global. I'm also director of Legacy Foundation. It's Legacy Gala, which is an event designed for Black BME professionals, and we give awards out yearly to the best of us in our community, shine a light on the best of us to inspire the rest of us. We have a promotional brand called A Few Good Men, which I've been doing promotions for the last 15 years. I've also been a venue owner for the last 10 years or so. So I've done a few bits and pieces. At the moment, I'm just, with the recent loss of my brother, who is Disha's partner, I've basically took time for myself, especially with this COVID, just to kind of heal myself, going through bereavement, going through trauma with loss of my brother.
Mine, I've got to talk louder.
That really affected me, but we're here now. I'm a work in process. I'm not all that I should be, but I'm not half of what I'm used to be. So I'm here to learn, be inspired, and to contribute as best as I can. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
we have got Anthony Andrew on this evening. Thank you for joining us on Struggle to Success. Having met you during the summertime? We briefly had a conversation that was really intriguing and equally inspiring. So Anthony, I'd like you to just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you are an advocate from struggle, going through a struggle and creating a success.
Well, as I said, my name is Anthony Andrew. My son, in 2003/04, we took him to a hospital in 2004 because he had a temperature, and we went there, and long story short, we're going too deep into it. He basically had a condition called cerebral palsy, and because of that whole process, me and my wife and my son at the time, Jordan, there was a lot of pressure on us at the time, and my wife had to give up her job. She's a lawyer. I was an engineer, and through that whole struggle, over the next 4 years. I mean, actually, through that, at first, during my time as a child growing up, I was went to church and everything, but I stopped going to church when my father passed away. And then this whole thing happened, so it kind of brought me back to my roots of like Christianity again, because that was the only thing that could get me through this whole thing. So with that, I started training and exercising, and I basically had a breakdown, and my struggle with all of that.
Sorry, Anthony, I'll just go back.
Do you want? What do you want me?
Yeah. So your son was ill.
Yeah.
And you felt that the hospitals had failed him at the time, right?
Actually, I can't go into that.
Okay.
You can't go into that one.
Sorry.
So,
but okay. So you've had what you thought was a healthy baby.
Yeah.
And was excited about the future with your son.
Yeah.
Was it your first child?
No, it was my second child.
Second child. So you've got a second child. You've been through the first one, and you found out that your son has a terminal illness now.
Yeah.
So at the point you said you've had a breakdown, but was that it? Obviously, I'm assuming it wasn't immediate, right? So did it come gradually?
Yeah, gradually. It was over a period of like the first 4 years was okay because of my faith in God and everything, but then everything. My wife had to give up her job to be Jason's carer, and then I was out of work for a couple of years.
So there was a financial element that crept in, as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with that, and then my whole world just caved in, basically.
Mm-hmm. And did that feel like overnight to you, or was it? Could you sense? Because obviously, with a lot of mental illnesses, you get anxiety, you get depression.
Yeah.
And from speaking from my experience, I didn't know I had anxiety, so I would be behaving a certain way, but didn't realise. So for you, was it similar? Did you start isolating yourself from people, or did you start arguing with your wife? Like, how did it manifest? How did it get to you having a breakdown?
Well, what happened was when I was out of work, and then just not having my routine, I just progressively went into myself and just started thinking about, I'm not earning and everything. And with that, it just spiraled into like me having psychotic episodes and everything.
Okay.
And then I was like in and out of a mental health unit. I was going in to a mental health unit, and I was on all these antipsychotic drugs.
Mm-hmm. And who would you say your wife noticed the issues, or was you at a point where you said, no, I need to go in and I need some help? Because obviously within the Black community especially, a lot of Black males are experiencing psychotic episodes, and family members might be disregarding it or not identifying it. So did you identify it, or did your wife or friends or family say, hold on, this isn't Anthony, like something's wrong?
Well, I knew there was something wrong, but you're kind of in denial at the time. And my wife recognized it. But so I was going to the doctors, and they put me on the drugs, but obviously wrong thinking, the chemicals, the hormones, everything jumbled up. I had these psychotic episodes where they had to call for the ambulance. Even sometimes police came, and I was taken into the hospital, where I was there for a number of days, and basically because of how quick I recovered, but they actually wanted to section me, but I was recovering quicker
than they expected.
Yeah, than they expected. So I didn't actually get sectioned at all, but they were considering it.
That's good. And how long would you say that period of you being in a place of mental illness, how long would you say that?
In total, 5 years.
Really? So it was 5 years.
5 years.
So that's an incredible amount of time to be in a place from someone who's an engineer, a high-flying career, and then to be in that struggle for 5 years. That is not something to be sniffed at.
No.
How would you say that you have overcome that? How did you get out of that space, because I'm assuming it was a low space,
Yeah.
what can you offer the audience that's watching, or friends and family that may have somebody, an uncle, a dad, a brother, a friend, who they identify that they're not themselves, there's issues? What helped you through your journey?
But before you get there, sorry, let me just ask, going 4 years of going back and forth to the doctor,
Yeah.
did you get any kind of help and support from family, wife, or was you
Yeah,
going through it by
yeah.
yourself?
No, they was all there for me, but because I was just so, people couldn't understand where I was, and I don't think people could understand where I was, because mental health is a thing that not a lot of people understand. So they didn't know where I was. I knew where I was, and it was a serious
Talking about
experience.
mentally or emotionally?
Mentally.
So they couldn't communicate with you?
No, they tried to communicate with me, but not a lot of people even understand mental health. So, I mean, I've got a greater understanding of it now because of what I've been through, going out the other side of it,
So describe what you think was happening in those 4 years to you.
Fun.
Describe to us and to the audience what was happening in those 4 years to you.
It was, it's difficult to explain. It's just like a weight of, it was like a heaviness that was on me. I couldn't do. At the worst part of it, I couldn't even make the simple tasks. I couldn't even make a bed, because sometimes my wife would say to me, go and do something. Try and.
I've had that where
and I couldn't do anything.
I couldn't open letters.
Yeah, I was,
The letters was just stuck.
She'd ask me, and I'd say, look, I don't even know how to do it. She'd come and try and help me to do it, but it was really dark.
It was a dark place, and for 5 years.
5 years, yeah.
For 5 years. So, what can you offer other people that may be in this situation? What words of advice, what words of comfort would you say? Because you are now a living proof that you've come through your mental illness. And actually, you're very lucky, because I've known people growing up, my mum's friends, who had breakdowns and they've never been the same again. Yeah. And I know that how we met was through exercise.
That's right, yeah.
So, just give us a few indicators that you felt had really helped you get through and overcome, and actually look back on those 5 years, and what have you gained from those 5 years? As in, what can you offer someone and say, look, this is what helped me. I don't know if it will work for you, but I'm a living example of overcoming.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to say paramount because of my walk with God. It was on the 5th of June 2013, where this particular morning I woke up and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I spoke to my wife, and I prayed about it. And through that prayer, the Holy Spirit said to me to start training and exercising. So, because we're dealing with an enemy you can't see.
Yep.
And just like how soldiers train so they're physically and mentally strong, you need to train so that you're physically, mentally, and spiritually sound. So, the next day, I went to Sports Direct, me and my wife, and I bought some training gear, and I started running. And running is really good for you because it releases good endorphins. So there was that. I'm going to say my walk with God in meditating in the Word, like it says in Joshua 1:8, day and night. I was doing all of that, and then in that training, nutrition, I went back to college, because you have to do something. You can't just be sitting down.
I know. I mentioned, you said earlier that you came out of your routine. So when you lost your job, you lost your routine.
That's right, yeah.
And for me, going through grief, I was going to say that routine is a key.
That's right.
It's a key. It's vital for anyone's schedule to have a routine, because what it allowed was for you to have a lot of free time.
That's
so
right.
You've just straight away said that to overcome the mental illness, you did exercise, you did nutrition, and you had your spiritual encounters, which would have been regularly, maybe morning and night. So it was a routine along with all of these things that
That's
really
right.
got you through.
That's right. And I went to college as well. I
Mm.
went back to college because it was somebody that I knew that said to me, this is some of the things. And I just thought, well, I'm going to try it out because you can't just not do anything. There's a part that you have to do. You have to say, hold on a minute, I'm not doing this anymore. So I went back to college. I was 50, going on 51. Went and enrolled and was doing maths, English, and
You're
IT.
51.
Well, I'm going to be 58
Wow.
in November.
Are you looking very
Prime example of what
Yeah.
physical.
Black belt crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, even during that time, I was prior to up until that date when I said on the 5th, I was actually 16 stone, 40 waist.
Wow.
That's because them drugs that they give you, they've got
They blow you
steroids
up.
in there, and I was 40 waist and 16 stone,
And
46.
do you
chest.
mind me asking, are you still on any medication
No,
now?
no more. I don't take no
You
medication.
don't take the medication, so you're solely in the word
Yeah,
and exercise.
exercising. Yeah, and with that, I went started, as I said, running. I enjoyed it so much that I then started doing fun runs for hospitals and things like that. And so first of all, I did a 5K, then I did a 10K. In 2014, I did the Brighton Marathon,
How much miles is that?
26.2 miles.
Wow.
And then I skipped 216, I did the London Marathon, 217, Milton Keynes.
How much is the London Marathon?
They're the same.
26
Well,
miles.
it was when I did.
Marathon is 26.
It was when I did in 2018. I did the ultra marathon, which was 53 miles.
That's fantastic. From someone that was 16 stone.
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
and then I did that. It was non-stopping. You had to do it within 24 hours. And in fact, this year I was meant to do a 100-kilometer one, which was 62 miles. But because of COVID, it's been cancelled. So it's been rescheduled for next year. And I'll even be older. But
How do you
Parallel.
condition your mind to do a marathon?
how do you condition it? Well, basically, my training routine is I do cycling sessions of 57 miles. I run up 48 and 36-story buildings. At this point, we can't do it right now, but there's a park in Edmonton that I run up these steps, and I've got it to where I'm doing reps of 250. That's 9,000 steps.
Wow.
So that's running the equivalent. If you look at the walkie-talkie building, I'd be doing that'd be like doing 10 times that, because 9,000 steps, 828 steps into 9,000 is 10, and the cheese grater buildings, 1,220, 58 steps, 48 floors, and I do. But in all of those, I run up that in 11 minutes, in 11 seconds. The cheese grater building, and the walkie-talkie one I've done in 8:41. But I'm even quicker than that now because practice makes perfect.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's really, really
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So
Oh, well, I'm just mindful.
I wanted, no, we still got a bit of time because Lee didn't introduce
Oh, yeah.
himself, so we've got that 5 minutes. But going back, all right, you use the physical activity and structure
yeah,
to help you out to see some light.
yeah.
But talk to us about the spiritual experiences that you had that helped you as well.
Well, yeah, the spiritual part of it, as I said, like it says, to meditate in the word day and night. Through that meditation of the world.
For some people, the viewers that don't understand the word, what's the word?
The word of God, the Bible.
Okay, so the Bible.
The Bible,
So
yeah.
you take a lot of your inspiration from
Yeah,
the Bible.
yeah. So there's principles in there that I've meditated on, and it's not just reading it. You have to read it. That's reading it's one thing, but then practicing it. Just like when I run marathons, I don't, you can't just run a marathon without practicing. So that's why I go out and do those. Like I run, like part of my schedule is running for 14 days. For 14 days on the trot, I'll do 10 miles every morning, for example, and then have a week off, and then do another 10 miles. I'd have a week off, and then do another 14 days consecutively. So similarly, in the Word of God, it's got in Luke 6:47 and 48, it says, "Let me show you what a man who practices my word is like. He's like a person who built his foundation on a rock.
Amen.
And when storm comes, this man can never be shaken."
Mhm.
And even in James 1:20, James chapter 1, verse 3, it says that when you go through fiery trials perfect your faith, patience, and endurance. So
Exactly.
everything that I've been to today has made me who I am now. That, you know, I do like motivational talks and
So Anthony,
coaching.
you know, like we would describe your mental breakdown as the lowest point in your life.
Oh yeah.
You describe it as the lowest point of your life. For 4 years, you was basically on the floor. Yeah.
That's right. 5 years actually.
5 years. So as you're now, we've used the metaphor as your steps. Yeah. Because you said that you do the steps. And so as you're now starting, remember you as an engineer, your wife was a lawyer. I can imagine that you had a brilliant life. Yeah. For whatever reason, you've now been taken from your top step at the Cheese Grater building and you're now being put on the bottom step.
Yeah.
How? And now remember, everyone's looking at you. Yeah. People that you've passed on the way up the steps, because you know we get tired and you leave some people. So you're now at the bottom and you're looking up and you're seeing people that maybe you was above, whatever that looks like. How did you feel? Did you ever wonder, you know, what other people were thinking about you? Because a lot of today's pressure is social media. A lot of today's pressure is, oh my God, he's driving a Range, or she's this. And, you know, how did you pick yourself up to go back on step one again when you knew that you was all the way at the top? Like, was there anything that kind of made you think, I can't do this? Or were other people's opinions overpowering? Like, how was it when you, on that June, the
5th of June.
The 5th of June, that was your first step.
That was it, yeah.
So was there anything that you was thinking about at that point? Was there any, like, what other people's opinions of you?
No.
No, you just...
No. I mean, before there was, because you just think, look at how I look terrible. You know, you just...
So how did that affect you psychologically?
Well, it did, because I was, you know, I was very dishevelled. I just let myself go. I wasn't, at times I didn't want to even wash myself. Just wanted to curl up in a ball and die, really. Although I wouldn't commit suicide, but I just used to, didn't want to really live. Just, it was a bad time. But, you know, as I said, everything that I've been through has now propelled me to what I do now, because mental health is on the rise right now, and negative thinking it's just like training your mind not to think negatively. But, and again, the biblical principles are in the Bible, where it says to take every thought and imagination captive, which you can, but we haven't been taught it, so you have to learn to do this. And so now, because of what I know, like, for example, from reading about nutrition, about psychology and the mind, negative thoughts release chemicals in your body that contribute to your physical well-being, your mental well-being, and I'm going to say spiritual, because they release chemicals, 1,400 chemicals into your body that affect 30 different hormones in your body. So now I refuse to worry. It's pointless, right? It's non-productive. So now, because I know that, because of knowledge and understanding and wisdom, I now know I'm not going to do that. And there's a scripture in the Bible, actually, that says, in Ecclesiastes 7:8, it says, the end of a matter is better than its beginning. So I always can see that the end will look better than its beginning, because if I look what happened to Jason in 2004.
Jason, your son?
My son, yeah. Today, we haven't come to the end of the matter, even for myself and Jason. And it's looking better than its beginning. So fear paralyzes you. But faith frees you.
Exactly.
Would you say then, we're wrapping up, move on, would you say your struggles psychologically and spiritually got you, like Disha was saying, to ground zero, but you use the word of God, the Bible.
To bring me back up
again. The Bible to renew your mind.
To renew my mind,
Renew your mind, change your thinking.
That's right.
And then how you felt about yourself.
That's right.
And then your actions were like get back a routine.
That's right.
Where that routine helped you to get from where
Yeah.
you was to where you are now.
Yeah.
That's what you would say.
Yeah. Because negative thinking is non-productive anyway, and so from there, they're moving forward.
Why the Bible though?
Why the Bible?
Why? Yeah.
Well, the Bible's
Why for you?
Why for me? Because I've read it, and so when you look at like the principles and you put them to practice, and you see it actually do what it says it can do, it's a no-brainer. You're just doing it because, for example, let's take for example James 1:19, where it says, "Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger." If you practice that, you'll see the benefits of it. There are loads of different things, as I said, and if you practice, it's just like anything. If I don't practice to run a marathon, the runs that I do, it's impossible to just go out and do a 26-mile run without practicing.
Yeah.
So similarly, if you start practicing what it says to do in the Word, you'll see the benefits of it. It's the benefits of what it
So
does.
through the lockdown,
Yeah,
I was fortunate to be with you in
That's
Park
right.
Jubilee
Yeah,
Park at the
yeah.
steps.
yeah,
And you, through your consistency, you came out daily,
yeah,
and then we started to attract young people,
Yeah.
mothers, elderly people, and because of your journey, other people started to come on a regular basis.
That's right. Yeah,
Throughout the whole lockdown.
yeah.
Talk us through. What do you think? How do you think that helped yourself and the other people?
Well, yeah. When we was on the step there, we saw loads of people, older people. I remember I was running up and down the steps, and a guy that was watching me, he was walking up and down, and then he started following what I was doing, like running up and down. The boxing with Jason, doing all of the core stuff, and it just attracted people. Everybody was coming in the park and seeing us, and then coming over to us. And even there was a lady that had a little grandson with her. We was doing monkey spiders across the. Remember that day? We was doing monkey spider across the grass, and then she was beckoning her son to do it, and then because he wasn't doing it, she started to do it with us herself, and then the boy started to follow. So it was really fantastic, and we did that for nearly 3 months, every day.
Anthony, we've had a question from Melanie Robinson. Thank you for locking in, Melanie.
Yeah.
And Melanie's asked, what were the main scriptures that helped you build yourself up spiritually again? Because obviously we're at the bottom of that step.
Yeah.
So what scriptures helped you build yourself up spiritually? Because you said you lost faith when your father died, and I can really relate to that tremendously. Since losing Joseph.
That's right.
So what were your main scriptures for building your faith back up again spiritually? Thank you, Melanie.
Yeah, well, one of them was several, but there's one in Proverbs 12:25, and it says that anxiety in the heart of a man causes depression, but a good word makes him glad.
Amen.
And so anxiety in the heart of a man, your heart's your spirit, man. It says anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes him glad.
A good word.
A good word,
like the word of God. So, and then in Proverbs 18:14, it says it's the spirit of a man that sustains him in sickness. It's the spirit of man, but who can bear a broken spirit? So I realized it was my spirit man that was being broken. So I started to feed it with the word of God.
Amen. Melanie said thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's nice.
Really
We've got someone else, Cassie Goring. She said that I can relate to this. I used to pray. I used prayer, meditation, spirituality, and fitness to help manage my grief after the tragic death of my 26-year-old son 3 years ago. I've since doubled my salary. I'm writing a book, in the process of becoming self-employed and setting up a charity in honor of my boy. I'm physically, mentally, and spiritually stronger than ever. Wonderful conversation panel. I commend you. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for that. Anthony, we thank you for coming in and sharing your story with us. And as you can see, we've got loads of messages coming in, and it's really exciting.
To reach out to you. Where can they reach out to you? Get contact with you. Or can you give your information out?
Yeah.
they can come through us if you don't feel comfortable. So if you have any further questions or want to know how Anthony's managing the illness of his son and also dealt with his mental health, then you can just reach out to myself or any of the panelists. And with that said, Cassie Gorin's just obviously mentioned that she's lost her son. We have a gentleman on this evening by the name of Tariq Mali, who has had a very similar experience to Cassie. You've lost your son. So please tell us a bit more about your struggle to success.
Okay.
Take your time.
On the beginning of 2017, I decided to go to the doctors just for a regular checkup, and gave my blood over. The doctor said to me, I asked him when would I get my results. He said the next week. I went back the next week, and he genuinely looked concerned. He said to me, "Look, I don't like what I'm seeing." And I actually sort of laughed it off. I said, "I'm not really worried, blah, you know." And he looked at me really concerned, and he said, "Do me a favor, come back in 3 months' time." And I went back in 3 months' time, and he told me that my PSA, and for those that don't know what a PSA is, that's prostate specific antigen. He said, "Look, your reading's gone up again, and I'm going to have to direct you to the hospital." So that was I'd never spent a day in hospital in my life, and that was a real shocker for me. You know, I was sent down there, asked a series of questions, you know, and a MRI scan was arranged for me. A few days later, the doctor called me and told me, "Look, we've checked your whole body. We're not seeing any cancer, but there's something inside your prostate that we don't like, and we need further investigation and biopsy." So I said, "What's the chance of it being cancer?" He said 30%. I sort of took some kind of hope out of that, you know, tried to think positive. And it came back. I remember the day they said to me, "Look, when you come back for your results, bring somebody with you." And I thought, I was there just trying to pretending I was brave, so to speak, said I don't need anybody coming with me. And I realized when I went in the room and I saw the light on the screen with, you know, pictures, you know, X-ray pictures on there, I just knew that it wasn't good. And I remember sitting in the waiting room actually, and I kept on looking at the nurse. It was a male nurse. I kept on looking at him for like reassurance that I was all right. I was just waiting for him to like nod and sort of go like that. And he kept, every time I looked at him, he looked away, you know, and I just felt to myself, this ain't going good. And my fears were confirmed. The doctor, you know, I walked out the room really angry because I felt that I'd lived a healthy life, and why me sort of thing. I stormed out the room, went away for about 15 minutes, spoke to a friend, and went back in the room. They were waiting for me, so it felt like they'd been through stuff like that before. And you know, and that was it basically. They told me I was scheduled for operation. That happened on August the 9th, 2017. And I spent 5 days in hospital. Left, it was an absolute nightmare. I felt the operation left me feeling like an old man. You know, it took me 10 minutes to walk up my road. I was walking around on a stick, and I wasn't healing quickly. They told me that my operation had taken far longer than it should have. And I was left with a lot of wounds, internal wounds. And it took me about 35 days I was left with a catheter in me. It was a nightmare. And the day, I kept on going week after week, is it ready to come out? They said no. And then the day finally came 35 days later. They said, "Yep, we're ready to take it out." I could feel, when they took it out, I literally felt my energy levels rising at that point. I felt free. Anyway, I'd been off work for a substantial amount of time, about 6 weeks, 7 weeks. I'd gone back to work, and then one evening, you know, everything seemed though it was settling in again. Although you do have at the back of your mind a fear of recurrence. Mm-hmm. But I'd gone back to work one evening. It was the 29th of October, 2017, 2 months after my operation. I was talking to a friend of mine, and my cousin's name kept on coming up, like like 5 seconds later, she kept on ringing. I thought the third time it happened, I said, nobody rings you 3 times without it being serious. So I terminated the call, called my cousin. She said, I said to her, what's up? She said, where are you? I said, I'm at home. She said, stay there, don't move. I said, what do you mean, don't move? And it went silent. And I said, is it one of my boys? She said, yeah. So I went outside, and about 5 minutes later, she came running down the road. And I said, what's up? And she said, it's Pookie. I goes, what about him? She goes, he's dead. Yeah, and I remember I just collapsed, Yeah, I collapsed and I was on the floor. I remember neighbors running out, people throwing a blanket over me. I was trying to break away. A police officer came in a Range Rover. I found them really unsympathetic, to be honest with you. It's not like on TV where you see them standing up there with their helmets in their hands. All I heard this officer just shout at me saying, there's no point you going up to Croydon. The whole place has been cordoned off. And I said, do you expect me to go inside and have a cup of tea while my boy's laying dead on the floor in Croydon? Anyway, I went up there and we were out to see him 4 days later. One thing I realized, when you have a child that has been murdered or anybody, it's like they don't belong to you anymore. They cordoned off the road, wasn't allowed to see him, wasn't allowed to go. And they told us when we could see him. And we all went down there in the mortuary and was just laying there. 19 days before that, I'd spent his 17th birthday with him in a satay bar in Brixton. I remember the last thing he said to me, he goes, I'm going to have a lot of kids. I really want to make it in football. I'm going to let my plaits out and I'm going to grow locks. And I said, do what you got to do in this life. And I remember walking off and watching him walk away because all of a sudden he just sprung up. He was about 6'2", and I like the way he carried himself. And as he was walking up, I remember really feeling a father's pride, and that was the last, didn't realize that was the last time I was going to see him. And obviously there was a funeral, a burial, a trial. His killer got off, he's since gone on to stab somebody else and got a 12-year sentence for that. And it's every day, it's just something that you have to sort of get over. I remember initially he was the first person that came to mind every morning, but it was like somebody that opened up doors and let dirty water, sewage into my mind. That's how it felt for a long, long time. I mean, first couple of weeks, I used to wake up screaming, and then I realized I had to stop that, I had to stop that, and I did. Yeah, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you got any questions?
Yeah, so sorry for your loss, Tariq. I thought it was important for us to kick off these series of workshops with your story and Anthony's story, because a lot of us, as men and women, but especially men, have to deal with anger and revenge. I'm saying revenge, as that eats. With me, just owning. I've had to deal with my anger throughout my whole life, and feeling like I have to retaliate or respond or react to something, to pain. I'm saying, to pain. Somebody carelessly took your son. I'm saying, that's your legacy. That's everything. That's what you're living for. How do you deal with that? Yes, I'm not asking you a question to give me an answer. There is no answer. You know what I'm saying? People can come and pray, and Anthony said it's the Bible. Somebody might say it's crystal. Somebody might say meditation. Somebody might, but only you and yourself would know what's been your answer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I thought you coming on the show and sharing, putting it on the table, maybe somebody could take something away from that, because we don't have the answers.
How is the healing process going?
The
The healing process right now. How do you feel?
Obviously, it's weird. You kind of get used to the pain. I think you get still pain, but you get used to it. I deal with it by the gentleman here. He runs. I decided at 48 to stop running, and I took up swimming. Funny enough, and there was something that I'm not going to go into on here, but there was something major in my life that happened. I'm not going to go into that, but at that point I could only just about swim one length, and when I swam that length, I used to wait, and
Used to what?
I used to wait at the other end.
Okay.
Before I had this fear of starting again, that I was going to gas out somewhere in the middle and run into trouble, and I saw, because not many of our people swim, and I saw a brother in there, and this brother was just swimming like that,
Up
back
and down,
forth, and I thought, wow, I've got to reach that level. And I sat down and I watched and I learned what the secret was, how to keep going. And I went from doing one length to 128
Wow.
in 6 months, non-stop. And at the end of it, I realized it gave me a calm in my mind, and it made, when you finish, it made your joints, everything would feel, your mind just feels, you feel literally feel uplifted. Probably how somebody feels when they're baptized, I don't know, but I feel, when I go swimming, I feel born again, literally. So it's always going to be a constant in my life. If I'm around in the next 20 odd years, because I'm 58 now, I'll still be swimming.
So, Tariq, you started off to tell us about your battle with cancer, prostate cancer, which is quite a significant cancer type within the black male community. You mentioned that you went to your appointment on your own. The results, yeah. So for people that have friends that have cancer, or for somebody that's going through cancer at the moment, would you advise other people to go to their appointments? Did you remember much from that results appointment on your own? Because I've had friends that have had cancer and friends that have taken people and friends that haven't. But what I do remember them saying, it's like your mind just goes blank.
Yeah, it's like that. It's just like, I know it sounds like you probably, what I'm going to say probably sounds like you've heard it before, but it's actually true. It's like you feel like they're talking to somebody else. You almost feel like you're on TV. It's weird. It's like,
so would you recommend for people to go on their own, or would you say for them to consider bringing somebody?
I think you should consider bringing somebody, but everybody has their own strengths. Everybody has their own strengths. I know a friend of a friend. He says he's a friend of his who was diagnosed with cancer. He's ex-military, he goes for his chemo and then he goes to work after. I don't know. I literally don't know how he does it. But that's his mindset. It depends on you, the person.
And as a black man, because like black men, we have this stereotype of being very alter egos. And when you got your results, did you go and speak to your other brothers? Did you go and say, look, guys, you need to get checked? Like, did you feel at that point you could discuss what you was going through with your other male?
I've always been like that anyway. I've always been quite
open.
Able to express my feelings, and I think that's helped me in many, many ways. I remember, as I said, I went through something a few years before that, prior to taking up swimming, and I remember people saying to me, you need to stop talking about this. But I felt the need to keep talking about it, and I spoke about it, kept speaking about it, until one day I just said, this is getting boring. I don't need to talk about this no more.
Did you seek professional help, like counselling, during during your cancer battle, or during the passing of your son?
No, I remember the the first like he was murdered on the Sunday. The Tuesday, I stayed at a friend, and she phoned up my cousin and said, "Look, you need to come and collect your cousin." Because that night, the Monday night, I think I wept all night. Yeah, I wept all night. And my cousin, I remember her carrying me and literally putting me in the back of the Jeep and taking me to Mayday. And I remember on the way there thinking, if you don't stop, these people could section you. If you don't stop the crying.
And at that point, and so at no point you considered getting professional counselling service?
No, that day when she took me to hospital was the only time the hospital sent a lady out to speak to me. She'd lost her daughter in a car accident, and she spoke to me. But I realised at that point that, you know, people can say what could speak to you, but it's you inside you. So I came to the point where acceptance helped me a lot. You know, for a long time, I just wanted my son back. I just wanted him back, and you know, and I realized he's not coming back, and I feel that accepting the situation was a big part in helping me to cope with everything. Accepting for me, acceptance.
So how do you accept? What does that look like?
Yeah, what do you do? Do you do anything?
You just accept he's not coming back. You just have to accept him not coming back in this life. I don't know what. You know,
have you done anything that has helped the grieving process? Like myself, I do a variety of things that have helped my grieving process. Is there anything from a man's perspective that has helped with your grieving process? Because obviously, like women, we like to talk, innit? So I booked that counsellor immediately because I realised that I didn't want to burden anyone else. So I went and I sought out professional help. So from a man's perspective, and we know that, you know, men are from Venus, women are from Mars, whatever. So you are saying, you know, so you're saying it's acceptance. And I feel for men, women might have a different perspective on grief, you know. So when you say acceptance, so did you do journaling? Did you do drawing? You said you took up swimming, but that was attached to another.
I was doing that anyway, but I recognized that could also help me. I did a lot things like meditation, deep breathing. I find that helped to calm me down, and believe it or not,
I'm sorry.
Cold showers.
We're not loud enough. Okay, so
cold showers, cold baths. Those things helped to I felt like they revitalized me. That's something that that's something that I'm very, very big on. I understand what the gentleman meant when he said that he felt heavy, because I went through periods of feeling heavy. I was walking I used to be on the bus and you just want to smash up the bus, you know. And but I've gotten through that. So as I said, I'm a big fan of deep breathing and cold showers, cold baths. I can't do without them.
I noticed you mentioned as well, you've learned to live with the pain. And when we lost Joseph, a friend of mine who lost her.
For the viewers.
Oh, Joseph is the father of my two children and Marlo's brother. And we lost him to meningitis in 2018. And when you said you learned to live with the pain, that touched me, because I remember when we lost him, it was like, you can obviously understand the pain of when you lose someone close. It felt like an open wound. It felt like somebody had literally stabbed me. And I remember a friend of ours saying she lost her brother, and she said, Disha, you learn to live with the pain. It's always there. So as you're saying, it's acceptance. So what you're saying is you've learned to live with the pain, and that is your way of accepting it. And it's still there. It's still very deep. I don't think it ever really heals. But you've just done things like exercise, which you've mentioned, swimming.
Yeah, calisthenics. You know, I'm not
What's
big
calisthenics?
Bodyweight training. I'm not really a fan of weights. Probably when I was younger, not now.
So you use your own weight and do exercise.
Running up, sprinting up hills. Sprinting in the parks, you know, pull-ups, stuff like that.
You mentioned these physical activities that you're using to help you, but psychologically, has there been any help? Spiritually, he mentioned, Anthony, the Bible. helped him to renew his mind. You know what I'm saying? Do you live with that psychological pain? Is that of somebody taking your son? Or, you know what I'm saying? My thing is...
What do you mean, like
how
a hatred?
Yeah, my thing is mentally, if somebody took my son, yeah, like even my brother, like what I'm trying to say, my brother died of meningitis. There's nobody to go for.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say to you. That's what I'm trying to say to you. There's nobody to, and that's probably worse. You know what I'm saying? Because like, at least you know that's the person who took your son. So you, in time, you probably could go for him. You know what I'm saying? And then make that right. But is that right? You know what I'm trying to say? That war, that struggle between good and evil, how do you deal with that? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's funny, you know, you say that, because I used to think about my son's killer every day. I think at one point I was thinking about him more than I was my son, but I realized that was negative. That wasn't giving me any energies. You know, I actually was going to take a picture of him and put it on my toilet door, I have to be honest. And I realized he's not here. He's not in front. There's nothing that I can do. This is a waste of energy, and it's negative. So I don't think about him anymore. I believe that one day he will get what he's to get. I truly
Sorry,
believe
Tariq, we've just had a message in from Cassie Goring, and she says, how have you forgiven your son's murderer? Or have you forgiven your son's murderer?
I can't.
Okay.
I can't. I can't imagine any member of the royal family being assassinated and the Queen forgiving them. She might not vent her rage on TV, but I can't imagine her forgiving the killers then of like somebody like Lord Mountbatten. She'll never forgive them for that. You know what I mean?
So you're saying that in your hearts of hearts, you're saying you will never forgive, or at this moment you're not forgiving.
Never's a big word.
I don't believe I ever will forgive him. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do something to him.
No. But you just at the moment you're not.
It's not even at the moment. It's, you know, it's just not going to happen. I just don't see how that help. You know, that helps him. I mean, I've heard of cases where I've read a story of a guy. He wanted the people who he had robbed to forgive him, but that's selfishness on his part. Yeah. It's just to make himself feel better. It's not about the people who he hurt. You know, it's to make himself feel better. So even if he wrote me from prison and said, "I'm really sorry," you know, I'm not stirring it around and thinking about him and everything. That is negative. But I just don't. He's somebody I just don't want nothing to do with. No.
That's fine.
No, I don't. I'm not churning up feelings of hatred every day. That would be damaging to myself. You know. Yeah. But no. Okay. I know it sounds nice to say.
That. Yeah. Thank you. And I understand that. I don't think if somebody done that to my child, I could forgive anybody.
So what I'd also like to say, you know, that I know where you're coming from with the Bible and everything, because I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, actually, in Brixton. And even though I don't have a belief anymore and I don't go there, I still love gospel music. And I've taken things from there in terms of certain behaviors, you know. But it's funny, I know some people may believe this story, some won't, it's up to them. But when I just came out of hospital, you know, and I'd like a Christian or anybody to tell me what this meant. When I came out of hospital, my son was still alive then. I had a dream one night that I was lying on the floor on my bike outside some shops, looking up in the air. I don't know how I got there, but I didn't see myself. I was literally just looking up in the air, you know. And I saw my grandmother and my mother have passed, but I saw my grandmother floating over my head. And she went into this shop above me, about 20 feet up. And she didn't look at me. And she just went straight into this black glass above the shop. And then I saw my mother floating over my head. She's passed as well. Okay. But she turned around and she looked at me. And I'm just staring back, looking at them. And she also followed my grandmother. And I remember the next morning thinking, wow, I dreamt about the old ladies last night. And it just so happened that when my son died, I was walking down the road about a month later, down the same road where he collapsed and died outside the shop. And I froze when I looked up at the shop because it was the shop that I saw in my dream.
Wow.
And there was a young barber that tried to save my son's life. I phoned him immediately and I said, tell me something, what position was my son lying down in? And he described the same position as my son, as I was in the dream. That's how he described how my son was laid out. I went, this is weird. I said, I still didn't believe him until the police showed me the video of the actual murder. So it's left me with this belief that there's more to this life than what we can actually see.
So yeah.
It's left me with that belief. And there was black glass above that shop as well, you know, and also the paving where my son's head was went down like that. So he would have been able to see behind him slightly. It's one of the strangest experiences I've ever had in my life. And I'd love somebody from any faith to tell me why I dreamt that, because prior to that, I was sort of atheistic. I didn't believe anything, but I do believe that now that there is more to this life than what we could see. It was almost like a warning, a premonition. I don't know. You know.
So would you say, going back to the forgiveness, because forgiveness, it's actually a big thing to do. How are you going to get from? All right, let me just say, me and my dad, never talked for like 25 years for something at that time I perceived he'd done. And I never forgave him for that. It's only after the 25 years as I became a man, a father, I look back and say, well, it's two different things. Your situation is different, but by me forgiving my dad, I'm now able to enjoy a relationship as a father and a son with him. You understand? And he's forgiven me because there's things I did as a son that I dishonored him, and I didn't understand because I was a child. You understand? So now, where my brother's gone, he doesn't have another son. I'm the only son that he has now. So either we could live in a state of not forgiving each other, or lay down our right to be right and forgive. But by me forgiving him and him forgiving me, we've got a relationship now that at least we can even bring the kids around, the grandkids around, and the great grandkids around. You understand what I'm saying to you? Because they would have missed out, because I wouldn't have felt comfortable to bring my kids to his house. Yeah, they wouldn't have had a grandfather. I'm saying he wouldn't have had a great granddaughter. I'm saying, so do you feel like you would ever entertain that feeling of forgiveness?
For what purpose? For what purpose? I mean, you forgave your father, and your family, or you've brought. He's nothing to me.
It's two different things. I know.
He's nothing to me. There's nothing to gain. You know, when I buried my son, I didn't just bury my son. I buried grandchildren, great grandchildren. It's a whole bloodline gone. Black people who would have been here that are not going to be here. That's how I look on it. It's not just about my son. It's about his dreams, his hopes for the future. You know, I've just laid his stone down and put a marble ball in the middle of the headstone. You know, that was his dream, to be a footballer. He was just sports mad, sports enthusiast. You know, that's all gone down with him. How do I get to the point where I can sit down with somebody who doesn't care somebody who threatened me on his way down to the cells, making a slashing sign across his neck. How do you get to the point to forgive somebody like that?
Tariq, Hyacinth Palmer has come back to your question about your dream, and she believes that what that dream was telling you is your son's in another realm and that he's being looked after and cared for, and he's with the grandmother and your mum, his ancestors, basically. That's
what I want to believe.
So that is basically what she believes, or has interpreted your dream. That don't worry, he's being taken care of.
Thank you.
So thank you, Hyacinth. We had another question from Lee Williams, which you've kind of spoken about, is what's your plans for further personal development? As in, because obviously there's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration by what's happened to your son. So have you got any plans that you can share? Are you thinking of doing anything, or would you consider counselling? We have a counsellor coming on later to get a further personal development, because we can all do it on our own, but sometimes we do need to go out into the realms of more professional help as such.
I want to develop myself as a person, physically and mentally and spiritually. But to be honest, I have a granddaughter. She's 17, and I have an older son as well. He's late 20s. They're my main focus now. I wouldn't say that I don't want to sound negative, but I consider it that I've lived most of my life, and I've done most of what I want to do. Anything that I have now, I've got no dreams to live in luxury or splendor. Everything that I have now, I just want to work towards a betterment of my granddaughter and my son.
Okay.
That's who I'm living for now. I consider my life, I've done what I've had to do. Yeah. But I will develop myself purely for the benefit of your offspring.
Yeah. That's fine. Okay. Thank you for coming on and sharing your struggle to success, and losing someone, be it, especially a son, it's tragic, and it's a journey that I think it is a long journey to get over, or get to a place, if you ever get to that place of serenity or comfort, or every day, I believe going through grief every day is a day that you go through and say thank you, I've made it through, and do you know what I mean? It's day by day. So thank you, and thank you to everybody. I think there's Melanie Robertson has said, I feel that forgiveness sometimes is a journey. I believe in the power of prayer. Forgiveness helps, releases healing, peace, and mentally, physically, and spiritually. So has Lee joined us now, Marla?
Yes, Lee's online now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you want to introduce?
Lee.
Yeah, so we'll pass on to Lee. Hi, Lee. Thanks for joining. If you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name's Lee Lawrence, son of Cherry Gross. I've recently written a book about my journey, where I witnessed my mum being shot by the police at the age of 11 years old. And essentially, my book's about how we as a family were impacted by that, and what we had to go through to finally get recognition for that injustice, which happened back in '85, which sparked an uprising at the time in Brixton too. Hi, Tariq. I know Tariq as well.
How you doing, man?
How you doing, my brother?
I'm good. Okay.
And greetings, everybody that's there. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Can I ask a question just on that last topic, please? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Because I've been asked that question about forgiveness before, and it feels big. It feels like a big ask of somebody when you say, "Do you forgive?" And then I was looking up the word, right? And then sometimes I don't know if we say we don't forgive because we have an understanding of what forgiveness means, rather than when you think about when you break down what the word means, can we engage with that, right? So that's a question that I'm putting out there, right? So it says forgiveness is an intentional and voluntary process by which a victim undergoes a change in feelings and attitude towards an offense and overcomes negative emotion such as resentment and vengeance, however justified it may be. So going by that, where would you say you sit within that, Tariq? Because in some senses, I hear that you have changed your direction in terms of like your venting your emotions towards this person. At once upon a time, it was all about this person. You was willing to put them on your bathroom door, and you've got to a point now where you're saying, I'm not allowing this person to take up any more of my energy. They're not worth it. And I'm not seeking direct like vengeance. I'm just going to get on with my life and allow God to take care of you. Now, would we say that is some type of forgiveness? I'm just posing the question.
Wow.
Is it to Tariq you're asking the question? Because we do have Louise Knox, who's a counsellor, an old school friend of mine who's now a qualified counsellor. So I think Tariq, if I'm right in saying, he's already said that actually forgiveness isn't in the horizon for him. However, I think Louise could come in and interject here from a professional person saying, is forgiveness something that can be managed and does it always come to everybody? Because, and Louise, I'm introducing you now, I'm putting you on the spot, but welcome. Your mic, yeah.
I think everyone's journey through grief is very individual. There are so many different, you've got to take into account people's upbringings, people.
You've gone silent.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, some people have got different coping mechanisms already in place that they will go to. Some people self-medicate, they might be drinking or turning to drugs. People will maneuver in lots of different ways. So there's no one size fits all in counselling. There's no blanketed way of dealing. There's no one way for therapy. It's got to suit the individual.
So Louise, sorry. So would you say forgiveness is important or it just depends on the person? So I think what Lee was trying to get to is, in order to have forgiveness, is that when you've reached your kind of pinnacle, like you've got through the problem, or is forgiveness just, it doesn't have to come in order for the person to feel like that they've overcome the issue?
I think forgiveness is one part of the issue. The issue and the grief and the pain is the loss. So that ultimately supersedes anything else. I think forgiveness can be useful and helpful in negative emotions and kind of go with that is the process. You have to get sometimes it's difficult to get to that. In your example, how do you forgive meningitis? It's not something you can't always like get to forgive. There's always something to forgive. Every situation, everyone's way of living and loss is different. So I think forgiveness is really important. It's a valid part of the process, but that's not the main goal.
Okay. And how would you say, because for somebody, sorry, is it our mic or is it her mic? Her mic. Lou, try and fix your mic somehow because you're cutting in and out. So that's better. So from my personal experience, I've had counselling, but from Tariq's experience, he hasn't had counselling. as a counselling professional yourself,
Yeah.
how would you, obviously you're an advocate, how would you kind of say to anybody out there that suffered a loss or a breakup or of anything that requires a bit, would you say, I found counselling useful, I went for it before, I didn't find it useful, I went for it again, I found it like it was amazing? But for somebody who hasn't, and I'm not like pushing Tariq to get counselling or anything, I'm just no, it's nice to know, because in the Black community especially, I feel that counselling is still, it's an unknown territory, it's quite a frowned upon territory. Whereas in America, everybody has, I'm seeing my counsellor, it's all part of, and is it a women thing as well? So just tell us a bit about counselling, why you're an advocate.
Well, what I'd say is, naturally, I feel that women have the natural ability to communicate. We are verbal naturally from childhood. Girls tend to speak before boys. Boys communicate, they're more physical. It's a more physical something. So for men, like exercise, running, something physical, boxing, something like that, that's going to get the energy out of their bodies, is very useful in a therapeutic way for men. But I do feel there's a lot of stigma around counselling and a lot of misconception as to what counselling is. It's like in the Black community as well, a lot of people don't want people in their business. They think there's a shame in that. They don't want people all up in their stuff. So, and then there's a shame around crying and being vulnerable for men. They might find that difficult as well, especially with someone who they don't know, they don't understand. They might be feeling judged, or, they might be seen as weak, or they don't really want that kind of scrutiny on them. So, and it's a timely thing as well. Some people will be upset very close to the incident or the tragic trauma that they've gone through, and sometimes they might need a bit of time to kind of process what's going on. But I'm seeing a client at the moment who started seeing me almost the same week as her loss. So it varies. It just really does vary.
Could you give us 3 benefits of counselling? Like, what would you say are the 3 benefits of counselling?
The first one is to be heard. Even in this kind of dynamic, being heard, actually having someone sit down and speak about what's going on with them without someone interrupting and say, oh yeah, that happened to me, or yeah, and then it's kind of transactional. Eventually they're going to talk and you're going to have to listen to them. Having counselling is 50 minutes for you to be heard with no interruption. You can sit there for as long as you need and feel you want to, and just speak on whatever it is that's on your heart or on your mind to say. That is unique. That doesn't happen naturally in society. That's not anything. That's the first thing. And the goal is to be understood. That in itself, to be understood, to have someone else on this planet that understands your situation, your particular set of circumstances, your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions, that understanding is, you can't put a price on that. Personally, I don't think. And then the third thing I would say is being self-aware and have self-acceptance. Realizing when I do this thing, when I hear this thing, or when people do this to me, this is how I react, and being aware of that so that you can make the changes, that you can actually say, I don't want to be that person anymore. I don't want to react in that way. When they upset me, I don't want to grab a bottle and have a drink. When they upset me, I don't want to get angry and start getting all aggressive with my family. When they upset on these sort of things, and working through and realizing who you are. And it's about self-discovery. It's about learning what your triggers are. It's about learning how you will have more coping skills. It's about really learning about yourself. I think those would be the 3. So being heard, being understood, and self-awareness.
Okay. Thanks, Louise. Thank you. Yeah, that was really helpful and useful. Lee, did that answer your question regarding forgiveness?
Well, Louise, I heard a very sexist statement there about men don't know how to communicate.
In my experience.
I knew that was going to cause some drama. We're outnumbered. Louise. We're outnumbered here this week. Don't be
That's it. That's all right. I'm ready.
You're brave, yeah? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna speak from a personal experience point of view as well, right? So I've had counseling myself, and what I went to the counselor for, and what I discovered, and what I was able to start dealing with was two different things, right? I didn't know that they were linked. So the benefit for me of going to see somebody was that I was able to now start piecing the puzzle together. I was able to say, okay, that behavior is linked to this, and that's linked to that.
Yeah.
And I was able to have an understanding of myself. I was able to empathize with myself and forgive myself as well. But sometimes you might display certain behaviors that you beat yourself up over. So therefore, going through that process and getting to understand where things come from allows you to separate you from the behavior. And it allowed me personally to start dealing with that, challenging that. You know, once things happen, I could say, okay, I know what's happened. I've been there before. This is how this ends. So how can I change the ending? So that was the benefit for me. With what I went through, my trauma, in terms of witnessing my mum being shot by the police, did that help me with forgiving the officer who shot my mum? I don't. When you say, do you forgive someone, it almost feels like you're giving them something that they don't deserve to have. So therefore, it makes it very hard to connect with, do I forgive this man? But what I will say is, in what Tariq said, he's no longer my focus. And for many years, I had this image in my mind that one day I was going to revenge what happened to my mum. So I had a very clear objective where this man was concerned. Where now I sit here and think, you're like the member of the gang who is really nobody, right? But you wanted to show people that you could do something, that you want stripes. But really, I need to focus on the gang, right? And hold the gang accountable for what happened. So that's where my energy went to, was looking at, how do I hold the establishment accountable for what happened to us, and how can I influence change through my experience? And me being able to refocus my energy in that way has helped me in terms of the raw anger that I had before, and that sort of negative emotions that are attached to it, and venting them in the wrong place and in the wrong way. Now I'm able to, deal with that in a different way and almost take the moral high ground. But everyone's journey is different.
I would agree with that. I think the misconception around the forgiveness is you are giving them something. What you're actually doing is you're releasing yourself from those negative feelings. So they no longer matter. So it's not that you're forgiving them and great, well done, and I forgive you. It's you no longer matter. I'm not going to spend every waking moment giving all my energy, all my thoughts, all my feelings, all my anger to you. You don't deserve that. You've had enough of me. You've taken enough of me. And it's now time for me to refocus that energy into something else and move away from those negative, poisonous, venomous feelings. It's to kind of release you from the pain of what they've done. So it's never really for them, it's for you. It's for you to forgive and rise above it.
Yeah, Lee, thank you, Louise. Lee, talk to us a bit about the book.
Okay. So the book is called The Louder I Will Sing. And it's from the Lavi Sifri song, Something So Strong. And the line before it is, the more you refuse to hear my voice, the louder I will sing. Right? So when my mum was shot and the police officer was pointing the gun at her, and I was screaming and shouting, and then he pointed the gun at me and said, "Someone shut this effing kid up," right? In a sense, I was this young defenseless child who wanted to defend my mum but couldn't, right? And the book is almost a response to that, because I became a man and I was able to defend my mum, maybe not in the way that I thought I was going to, but I did. And I found my voice, and it was heard in the end. And the book's about that journey of what I had to go through to get my voice heard and get my mum's story heard and our story heard. And it's also to try and inspire others to find their own voice in their own battles. I think it's very important for us to be able to do that.
Brilliant. We're gonna give some of our listeners your books. Maybe 10 of our listeners your books, because we're sponsored by the Lottery Community Fund and HM Government. So we want to support the foundation, the Shirley Groves Foundation, and we just want to commend you and honor you and support you as much as possible, because what you're doing is amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Marla.
Yeah. Lee, just a quick question. For somebody how old was you when your mum passed?
So when my mum passed, I was actually the same age that she was when she was shot. I was 37 when my mum actually passed, and when she was shot, I was 11.
Oh, okay. So how did you deal with that trauma? Because obviously now you're at a place where people would say you're successful, you've got your book out, you've come through this tragic situation. What were your 3 key kind of go-tos from 11 to when she passed that got you through it to the place where you're in sound mind and you have written a book and people can look to you as an inspiration? Like, what were the 3 main drivers for you?
So first was my love, my unconditional love for my mum. And when she survived that incident, and I became a carer. So I think in me becoming a carer to her, it allowed me to really connect with what she had gone through and empathize. And we speak about skills, and there's this thing called soft skills. And it's hard for men to want to embrace soft skills because, we like tough things and, we like to be strong. But those soft skills around being able to listen, being able to empathize, being able to communicate, right, effectively, really helped me in my grooming, right? And in a way that I didn't know that I was going to be able to rely on those skills later on down. So I was doing a job which essentially was caring. So I was naturally a carer. When, going through my sort of teenagers, I ended up being like a typical young black boy. I had issues. I was on the streets. I was doing things. But the one thing that kind of kept me centered was I've got to care for my mum. So when everybody's out on the road doing what they've got to do, I'm thinking, if police come to my house again for me this time, how am I going to feel? If I get arrested and I go to prison, who's going to look after my mum? Because no one ain't doing that job to the level that I was doing that job. So I was very, I took that job very seriously. So that kept me, balanced to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd gone through therapy when I was about 30. So my mum was still alive at the time. And as I said, I went to therapy for something else that was happening.
What made you choose counselling at 30? Why then? Why did you decide to do counselling then? Was there any key triggers?
I think naturally I can be very self-reflective, right? And there was this kind of 2 sides to me. One side was very loving and caring and giving, and I was this perfect son. And then there's another side of me that was maybe displaying certain behaviors that would affect others in a negative way.
Breaking
Right.
girls' hearts. That
No, but you know what? I'll be honest with you, right? That was a big part of it. That was it. Right? I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest, right?
That's his next week's show.
So it was almost contradicting who I was, because in one sense I'm, been caring guy, but in another sense I'm hurting people because, of certain behavior. So I said to myself, I need to challenge that, because it was a cycle. It didn't make me feel good about myself. And I just said, I want to challenge that. Where does this come from? Why is this happening all the time? And in doing that made me realize that, essentially I lost my mum as a mother at the age of 11. So therefore, the relationships that I'm getting into with women, I'm almost expecting them to be my mother, the mother that I didn't have, to some degree. Right? So the expectations were really high, and too high for anyone to be able to achieve, because you're not supposed to be my mother, you're supposed to be my girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
So little things like that, I was starting to realize how much that of no fault of my mum's, that abandonment, how it was manifesting in my life in terms of having a profound effect on me. Yeah. And then the trauma of witnessing what happened, the anger that built up from that was never really dealt with, was manifesting itself as well. And that was another thing I wasn't proud of.
Okay.
So in challenging those things in terms of the end result, in terms of my behavior, led me back to that incident and the traumatized 11-year-old child that was displaying behavior in this adult body, basically.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you. So, to everybody watching, as I said, Louise, she's a school friend of mine. I've known her for years, and I would advocate, if you're interested in counselling, have any questions about why you should, or, she's there, and all her contact details should be available somewhere coming across the bottom of the screen now. Yeah. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yes, viewers at home, and it's come to that time where it's time for us to wrap things up. And it's been an amazing evening. And I'd like, on behalf of the host, to say thank you to Anthony and Tariq and Louise. It's been, there's so much more that we could say, and it could go on for twice as long. But next week, we'll be dealing with some other issues. And I hope we all got something out of this. I know I definitely did. I didn't say much, but it's sometimes you can get more out of listening than you can out of talking. So I appreciate sharing your stories and your experiences, and I look forward to next week. So yeah, on behalf of the host and the guests, thank you all for tuning in. See you next week. Bye.
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 Bye.